Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chasing Joy Show. I am ARHartie, blogger, joy strategist, creator of the Vision Board in a Box, and your host for the Chasing Joy Show. The Chasing Joy Show is an extension of the Chasing Joy brand, where I continue the conversation about happiness, how to build resilience, what I like to call that bounce back factor, and have more joy in your life by having awesome conversations with great people who either have great insight on how to have more happiness in your life or who have a really interesting perspective on life that I think we could all learn from. So, welcome to the show. Today, our guest is Tamekia Young of Imani Consulting, and I'm going to ask her to join us on the show, to turn her camera and mic on so we can get started.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I like your orange.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so before we dive into our conversation, we're going to kick it off with my favorite icebreaker, which is two truths and a lie. So Tamekia is going to share three statements with us. Two are true and one is a lie, and we are going to try and guess the lie. So by we, I mean me and our virtual studio audience. This show is being live streamed in the Chasing Joy private Facebook group. So the members of the group get to be our virtual studio audience right now. So they will be guessing in the comments. So tell us, what are your two truths and a lie?
Okay, so I have been thinking about this. Um, and I have ones that I usually share, but there might be people watching who know me.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I heard you say Shamor, but I don't know if she knows this. But okay, here we go. The first thing, I took Russian for 4 years. The second thing, I have two granddaughters.
Okay.
And the third thing is that I was born with 12 fingers.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm just going to repeat the statements and give a few moments for our virtual studio audience. When you guys see me look over to the side, I'm looking at my phone to see their comments. And there's like just a teeny bit of a delay between the Zoom where Tamekia and I are chatting and the recording making it over to Facebook. So your three statements were that you took Russian for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
that you have did you say granddaughters?
Mm-hmm.
Two granddaughters, and that you was born with 12
Fingers.
fingers. I couldn't remember if you said fingers or toes. 12 fingers. Okay. Those are really interesting and kind of fun facts. So let us know, guys who are watching in our studio audience. Let us know in the comments, which one do you think is the lie? So Stacy says the two granddaughters is the lie. Miss Lily says the 12 fingers is the lie. I'm inclined, and don't tell us yet, but I'm inclined to say the two granddaughters. But part of that is because, when I think of grandmothers, I think of like my grandmother. And I feel like, oh, you're too young to have granddaughters. But grandmoms look way young these days. Grandmoms ain't how they used to be. So I can't really go by that. Miss Lily says the lie was you was born with 12 fingers. All right, let's see. Any more guesses? Janice just said, I don't know. And she put up the shoulder shrug emoji. So she don't have a clue. All right, I'm gonna go with the lie being, I kind of wanted to lead toward the Russian too, because you didn't specify. Usually people say like I took 4 years of Russian in high school or 4 years of Russian in college. So you just kind of left it open ended. So that's like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with the granddaughters being the lie.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
That is the truth.
Okay.
My stepson, or as people say, bonus son,
Mm-hmm.
has 2 daughters.
Okay.
So I am a G mom of 2 precious little girls.
Oh, so it's
So
G
that
mom.
is
That's what you go by.
G mom. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, so we could guess again. So we still have to guess the lie of the. So the two remaining choices are 4 years of Russia or the 12 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna go with my guess, which was the Russian.
That is the lie. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
took 5.5 years of Russian.
Oh, wow. So that's
So
a
it's
really good one.
yes.
So was this in high school and college combined?
Yes. So
Are
at
you
in high school, the Central High School of Philadelphia,
okay?
I took 4 years of Russian. And then in undergrad, I placed out of 101 because I took, 4 years in high school. So I took 102 and then 201 and 202.
So are you like fluent in Russian after all those years?
Well, what I will say is that conversational, like I could do like, hi, how are you? My name is Tamekia. But I can more so understand it better than I can speak it. Like, so, if you watch Creed 2, I was good. I didn't have to worry about subtitles. I knew what was going
Oh,
on.
wow. So can
Mhm.
you want to demonstrate? You want to say, hi, I'm Tamekia in Russian?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, здравствуйте. Меня зовут Tamekia. So I said, hello, my name is Tamekia.
Wow. So remind me in a minute to tell you a funny story about my own I don't know, neuroticism. Is that the word when you're like neurotic? Your own neurotic
Okay.
related to Russian.
Uh-oh.
But before we dive into that, let me officially introduce Tamekia to the show. Read you a little bit of a bio here for her. Tamekia D. Young is a Philadelphia native with over 20 years of experience in behavioral health field. She earned her bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in women's studies from Westchester University and her master's degree in counseling psychology from Temple University. In addition to her academic credentials, Tamekia is a national certified counselor and licensed professional counselor. She's the executive director of Imani Consulting Education Supervision, LLC, where she provides individual therapy, family therapy, clinical supervision, and staff development. She's established Infinite Life Growth LLC in 2020, and her mission is to create and support platforms that decrease the stigma of mental health conditions. And her goal is to increase mental health awareness through coaching and consultation. She's a Black Indigenous person of color, which we can kind of see that thanks to the powers of Zoom. And she is conscious of supporting our causes, and she's an LGBTQ plus ally. So welcome to the show, Tamekia.
Thank you for having me.
So again, I don't remember where we met. I know I met you through my cousin, that you guys are in the same sorority. Yeah, I have no clue when we actually met for the
I
first
don't
time.
know. And I was thinking about that too. I feel like we knew each other through social media. Like we knew each other through her, and then through social media. And then I specifically remember like the one time in Corner Bakery.
I remember that.
Because you were like, I know you. And for the longest time, I thought your name was Joy. Like, well, I guess I didn't, but I was like,
A
Joy.
lot of people do, yes.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, when I came up with Chasing Joy for the name of the brand, it never occurred to me that people would think my name was Joy. So I've learned to actually answer the Joy.
Good.
Especially if it's a strange voice, because I'm like, okay, they're probably, if I don't see anyone else responding, like it might be me that they
Yep.
think. So I asked Tamekia to be on the show because obviously you heard all her credentials. She's clearly qualified to be a resource and is a resource in her everyday life for helping people to have a better, happier life. But in addition to that, I actually consider Tamekia one of the few people that I will accept mom advice from. So that is, an
That's a big
honor.
honor. It's a big honor.
That circle of people is pretty small, but I see how she interacts in social media, and I've been around her in person. So in addition to all those accolades, she's also a wife and a mother. And I like how she talks about her family. So I actually trust the things that she says. So if I trust her enough where I would take her advice, then I trust her enough to share some of that advice and life knowledge with you guys. So that's why I asked her to be to the group. Shamor just commented, she said, me too. So you're in her circle as well.
Oh,
And Miss Lily said, oh, back when you were speaking Russian, she said, that's impressive. Russian is a difficult language to master.
yeah. I
So
mean,
go ahead.
it was, but all right. So I'm just going to be honest about it. So when you're 13 and they say, well, what language do you want to take? My mom is fluent in Spanish. And so really I took Russian out of rebellion. So it sounds nice to say like, oh, it was different. But I said, if I take Spanish, she's going to want to help me like with my homework and all of that kind of stuff. So it's like, what can I take that's going to be hard enough where she can't like micromanage helping me with my homework? And it was like the end of the Cold War, it's like late 80s, early 90s. So that, I guess I can say that contributed to it.
Yeah. That's
Thank
funny.
you.
So I'll tell you really quick my neurotic Russian story. So when I was on maternity leave, I discovered the show The Americans. Have you heard of or watched this show?
I'm not familiar with it.
So it's based on a real life event that they made a fictional show where they discovered that there were these Russian spies. I think it was like possibly New Jersey. I might be wrong about New Jersey, but they discovered a family of Russian spies here in the United States, like in real life. And so they created this fictional drama around this family of Russians who like actually have kids who were born here, and they have been spying since like the 60s through the 80s.
Like Salt.
I didn't see Salt. Is that I've heard of that, but that's what that's about. That's a movie with what's her
Angelina
name?
Jolie.
Yes. Yeah. I'll have to watch that then because I really like The Americans.
That might make it worse, but okay.
Well, I'm over it now. But great show, has like 6 seasons. I binge watched it all through my maternity leave and however many months after. So that very next Thanksgiving, I go to my aunt's house in Maryland, and she has a kind of an open door thing. So one of my cousins came and brought with her her friend, who was this Russian lady, who was here as like some kind of exchange program or something. So she's like Russian, like not like her parents are Russian, and she's Russian.
Right.
Accent, is good with English, but clearly doesn't understand everything. So everything's fine. And my son had something going on. I don't even remember what it was now, where he had to take a antibiotic. And the day after Thanksgiving, I wake up and I leave him with my aunt. Me and my cousins go out. I come back. He has spots all over his body. So I'm panicked, like, what is it? What is it? But this little voice in my mind is like, oh my gosh, did that Russian lady poison us? Because that's what was happening on the show. That's what was happening on the show. And I was like, okay, I really gotta chill. But it was so random, and it was like because she had asked to hold him at one point, and I was kind of like, but I allowed it, like, okay. And it was just, yeah, it ended up being it was the antibiotic, but that's like a rare thing that happens sometimes. So anyway, that's my
Oh,
neurotic
wow, a
Russia
mess.
story. Uh, Stacy says she loves that movie. I think she's talking about Salt.
Okay.
All right, so we'll just kind of get started with our official topic and off of my crazy Russian.
I assure you that I am not a spy.
You're not a double agent.
I'm not a double agent at all. I have not been planted here by the Soviet Union.
Oh my gosh, that would be something. So before we dive in, I'm going to save Tamekia the trouble. I'm going to do the disclaimer for her. So you heard all her credentials and accolades. So she is a true therapist. However, she is not providing us with therapy. We are just having a conversation with someone who is a credible source and qualified to engage in the conversation. She's not giving anybody specific mental health advice. And if you feel you have a specific issue, the recommendation I certain from her and me is to get your own therapist and talk about it one-on-one. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to add anything or is that good?
Oh, that is so perfect. Thank
Awesome.
you.
I save you the trouble. So one of the first things I wanted to ask you, based off of your life experience, your professional experience, what are one or two things that you think most people can do or stop doing to feel happier?
So I love the way you phrase that because you said can do or stop doing. A lot of times we talk about replacement behaviors, and that's even biblical. Like in the Bible, it says, "Put off the old self." So my quote that I like to say is to have two replacement behaviors, one to erase and one to replace. So I'm not like a mathematician or anything, but if you think about it, if status quo is a zero, like baseline is a zero, right? And then you have like a negative behavior that takes you to -1. If you have one replacement behavior, that takes you back to zero, status quo. But we want to do better than that. So we're going to have two to bring you up to one. So you're better than status quo.
Oh,
So
I love that. And I love the math analogy.
Thank you. Thank you. So the one thing I will say to stop doing is to stop complaining. At least stop complaining verbally, right? Life is not perfect. There might be some things that you're thinking about, that you're having issues with, that you're, grumbling about, but words are powerful. So once you put it out there and you start complaining and venting, then that takes up a whole different form. So one, stop complaining. And then we're going to add to that two things. One is express gratitude, which I love. I know you're doing your April gratitude challenge. And that doesn't even have to be like, I won $1,000 on a Powerball, right? It can be, I got a parking space in front of my house, which I don't know about you, but that's major, right?
I can relate.
Yes. And then the other one is serve others. When you serve others, it puts everything in perspective. And it's not, oh, I'm going to help these downtrodden people to put myself up on a pedestal and make myself feel better. But it's a genuine feeling. I know that I get when I serve others. It makes me feel good. Plus, my love language is giving anyway. So that kind of goes along with it.
I love that, especially the serving others. That giving back is one of my pillars of joy. And I feel that when you give back, not only do you get that good feeling that you're talking about, but the time and mental capacity that you have to devote to the giving takes away from some of the time you have to focus on what's not going right. So it kind of fills up and takes up some of that complaining time. Not that your problems have gone away, but it's
Mhm.
allowed you to shift focus and almost get a little break from your own
Yeah.
stuff because you're helping someone else with theirs. Um, Shamor says that's great advice and easy to remember. And Stacy says, I love that. Erase and replace. I like that.
Yes. Thank
That's
you.
really
Thank
good.
you. It,
I just have
you
the visual of the
quote me on
math.
that. Quote me on that. Right. Thank you.
And I have the visual of that like math time,
Hmm.
ruler that they would do in elementary school with the zero.
Yes.
Like you do have to move two spaces to get to one if you're at -1.
Yes.
Um, so one of the things that I've always been conscious of since I became an aunt, which is unbelievably 22 years ago now that I became an aunt, is how I speak to young people, the young people in my life. And I'm even more conscious of it now that I'm a mom. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things you think that adults can do or say or, empower as they interact with young people to help them feel like more comfortable in the
Hmm.
skin that they're in?
The concept of emotional intelligence is super duper important to me. I definitely was raised, with that old school of children are to be seen, not heard. My parents will both say, like, well, we would tell you you could say anything to us as long as it was respectful. And I'm like, really? Was that really an option? Or was that a setup? Um, but so I am like really big on that. And like you said, you've seen like even on my like Facebook posts, like personally, I practice what I preach when I talk about that. With children, they are little people. They are people. They are human beings and they have feelings. And it's important to foster the open communication with them. There's a difference, like what I'll say, because people will say, well, to a degree. And I mean, I get what they're saying when they say that to me. The thing is, there's a difference between your child asking a question and your child questioning you. So I can see how your child questioning you can be perceived as disrespect, but your child asking a question opens dialogue. And definitely, like with my sons being now 11 and 10, the these conversations, there are definitely conversations that I do not recall having at age 11 and 10. And maybe there are questions that I had, but not conversations that I necessarily felt comfortable with raising to my parents. And so I think that it's important to to promote that within them, to help them have a healthy sense of self, um, having them take calculated risks. My 10-year-old one time said, Mom, you're a helicopter mom. And I felt very attacked. Like, when first of all, I'm like, well, how do you even know
Right.
that? And then I thought about it after I, calmed down, and I said, well, what makes you say that? Because usually when people say that, it's like such a pejorative connotation to that term, helicopter mom. And I'm Generation X, so I'm like the latchkey, autonomous, come home, make yourself a grilled cheese sandwich,
Right.
and wait until I get home type of situation. And he said, because you're always like protecting us. And I said, okay, so then I took it as a compliment, because I'm like, well, good, because you should feel protected.
Right.
And so we had dialogue about it, and I just explained, one of my jobs is to protect you and to keep you safe. However, one of my other jobs is to help you develop into a mature and responsible person. And so I will try my best to balance that and help you take risks, within reason. If now he wants to learn how to iron, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the steam's gonna blow in his face, gonna burn his
Right.
hand. But take risk within reason, lower the ironing board, stand, next to him, don't hover, so just finding that balance. And then they will learn, because again, if you tell the child, don't touch it, it's hot, and will they ever learn from
Right.
the, you know what I mean? Will they ever learn from it? Or if they get like a little burn or a little scratch, they'll remember that pain better than they'll remember you saying, don't do it.
Right.
Because I remember thinking when my parents would tell me stuff, like especially my dad, he would tell me stuff and I'm like, whatever, that was in the 60s. That doesn't apply anymore. And now that I'm in my mid 40s, I'm realizing everything still applies generation after generation after generation. It
Right.
just looks different.
Right.
So, balance that.
When you said help them take calculated risk, part of me was like, no.
I know it's tough. And
I'm a
baby Joy
risk.
Chaser's still little.
Yes, and I'm a risk averse person for my own self. Like I have to
Yeah.
like talk myself into like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
got to do this thing here. So
I mean, it's tough. Like I remember when Jay was probably 4, I think they were in preschool. We live on a tree line street. And so, in the city, when you live on a tree line street, sometimes the pavement is uneven because of the roots from the tree. And so I will always tell my sons, they would get out the car and they would like race down the street to the house. Don't run. Stop running. Don't run. And then Jay face planted one day. And it hurt my heart. He was in pain. Like there are different types of crying.
yeah.
And he was in like, just, I couldn't console him. Like I'm like rocking. It was so sad. He's now 10 and will be starting middle school in September. And he still remembers that pain. Now, did I want him to learn that way? No. Because he was hurting and I was hurting along with him. But he remembered from that because I would say, stop running, stop running, stop running. And then, in the worst kind of I told you so way.
Yeah. Wow. So we have a couple comments. Miss Lily says that when you help others, you're actually helping yourself as well. And then she agrees. She says almost all kids are risk takers. That's how they learn from their mistakes. And I'll take Miss Lily's word because she's actually one of Baby Joy Chaser's daycare teachers. So she would know. She's with these little people all the time.
Yes.
And Shamor says tough, scary, not ready.
It was so tough. And one of my friends, she makes different creams and ointments. I sound like an old lady talking about ointment, but and she made, I guess, what do you call it? Like a salve. And I put it on him and his little complexion came right back in evenly. You would never know.
So he had like a scrape and everything.
It was down to the white meat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was bad. And that's my chocolate baby. So it was very pronounced.
Right.
Yeah.
Baby Joy Chaser just had his first injury on Easter where we had to go to the ER for a cut on his hand. So I definitely can relate to that difference that you hear in the cry. Like,
yes.
Oh, this is serious. And
yes.
Yeah, that's tough.
That was very tough.
Tamekia said yes to the salve.
Yes.
So
I wish I could. I think it was called Boo Boo Butter.
Oh, that's such a cute name, Boo Boo Butter. Shamor just you reading people's minds. She said, I need that ointment. Send details.
I will. I have to make sure she's still making it. I don't want to put her out there, but I have to make sure she's still making it. And I'll let you know we can add it.
Yes, let me know. Though I told Baby Joy Chaser he is not allowed any more owies for 10 years. So he gets several owies per day, but they're not that serious.
One of my friends, she has 3 sons, and she always says she has like what do they call it at the amusement park, like the park hopper passes to the ER.
Yeah.
So we have not broken any bones yet, thank God. We've had stitches and staples all within a month. My big boy Q, he hurt himself at camp and had to get staples because he hit his head. You know how they have those decorative, like those really big rocks or boulders or whatever on the lawn. So he fell, and when he fell, he hit his head on the boulder.
Oh wow.
So he had to get no, it was in the front. He had to get stitches, and then no less than a month later, he was like playing around and like did one of these things and hit the back of his head on a radiator.
Oh,
and so we were in CHOPS ER, and I had to tell the people because they were like, well, we see he was just here. And I said, oh no, they're going to do a CPS. So I said, well, the other incident happened, he was at camp.
Like it wasn't me.
But that's all we've had. We had those two
goodness.
trips within 30 days to the ER.
Yeah. When I was in 4th grade, I had to go to the ER with my dad 2 days in a row.
Wow.
Yes. So the first was like a non-stupid reason. I used to get a lot of bladder infections when I was a little girl. So we had to go, and like they gave me antibiotic or whatever. And you know, with like little kids are like proud, you know, after the scary part. So I still had my ER bracelet on for a whole day. So I could go to school next day, like I was at the hospital or whatever. And I had an itch in my ear, and I decided to scratch it with my pencil, and the point broke off in my ear. And I couldn't get it out. The teacher couldn't get it out. The school nurse couldn't get it out. So back to the ER we went, and they go to do the check-in, and they like, you still got a bracelet on.
Wow.
So that was a little embarrassing for my dad. It was
Definitely.
like, well, it was a whole bladder thing yesterday. So I was relieved the next day. I'm like, all right, we're still good. We're not going to the ER 2 days in a row.
Right. We don't want to three-peat.
No, right. So like we were talking about your sons. So like I said, you're a mom, you're a wife, you own your own business. How do you know, find time for yourself? And what does your self-care look like with wearing all these different hats?
So it comes in different forms. There's a quote, and I should have brought it up, but there's a quote that says like self-care isn't always bubble baths and chocolate cake. And you know, self-care is creating a life that you don't feel that you need to escape from.
Oh, I like that.
And so like self-care for me does come in different forms. So one thing is I am a proponent of getting my mani and pedi. At least once a month. I try to go every 3 weeks, but at least once a month. I also have like a certain structure that I try to maintain in the house, which might sound like, how is that self-care? It is, because I'm saving time on the back end. If things are a certain way. So it could be, and I said this recently, and somebody was like, something is wrong with you. Because I said, well, when I iron my son's uniforms for the week, instead of waking up an extra 20 minutes in the morning to iron uniforms, that's self-care, because I am not a morning person.
Right.
So because they're more self-sufficient, and I don't have to like physically get them up in the morning, like they can get up on their own, because I've taught them how to utilize their phones to set an alarm and all of those things, so they can get up on their own and, do their hygiene. So that's self-care, because I get to lay there instead of like, oh no, I got to get up and iron their uniform so they won't be late. Self-care is also like during a pandemic, I've been meditating more.
Okay.
When I say meditate, I don't mean like, so I've never been good at like the meditation when they say like, clear your head. That doesn't work for me. And it's actually very counterproductive, because I'll spend the whole time like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I clear my head? Kind of like that, like Dory on Finding Nemo. Like, I'm like, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And then they're like, ding, ding, ding. And I'm like, oh, it's over. So meditation for me, more mindfulness meditation. Setting my intentions to think on certain things. And then recently I started reading again. And I kind of make a face when I say that because I haven't been as consistent with it as I want to be. But I have started.
Okay.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And I believe it.
Yes. Thank you.
Stacy says self-care is very important. Miss Lily says she needs that mani and pedi. You need that mani and pedi for yourself. Yes.
Yes.
And Aubria has in the laughing emoji. I could totally relate to what you're saying about the meditation. And a lady named Allison, and her last name I'm blanking on right now. She's done a couple different meditation workshops for us when I did Chase and Joy Spa Days, back when the world was open and
Yes.
you could do in-person things. And one of the things that I liked that she said was about the trying to clear your mind thing, because I'm not good at that either. She said you want to think of your thoughts like clouds, and like when the thoughts come, just kind of let them pass on like a cloud. Like don't get stuck in the like, oh, get out of here kind of thing. Because then it's like you said, you spend your whole time kind of arguing with yourself about why you're not clearing your mind.
Exactly.
And then the time is up.
Yep. Just feel it, process it, and keep it moving.
Yes. Yeah. As a therapist, how do you like keep your clients and your patients' struggles from sticking to you? Like, I have this whole thing about it's actually like a poem that I wrote. I'm not a poet at all, but I did like a writing prompt. It was like write a poem, and I ended up writing this poem called Beware the Joy Thief. And I was talking about the different types of people in your life who, kind of whenever you're around them, you leave depleted. Like they suck all your joy out of you.
Yes.
And like that can be challenging in your day-to-day life, but when your actual job and your kind of maybe calling in life is to help people with their problems, how do you keep them from being joy thieves and like leaving you depleted?
So interesting. Well, first of all, I will say this. Joy is internal and happiness is external. So, like in, the good old church folks say, well, don't let nobody steal your joy. So, I'm all about protecting my peace. And when I was younger in my career, I would take it home with me.
Okay.
But over time, you learn in a healthy way, because I don't want somebody to say, oh, she's a clinician, so I'm going to say this word. Over time, you learn how to compartmentalize, but in a healthy way, meaning leave work at work. Everybody else leaves work at work, so you leave work at work. But the one thing that I will say is that I'm better with doing that with my clients than I am with my friends.
Right.
So I'm able to separate that when it comes to work. I mean, over the past 5 years, I would say I've probably like brought 2 clients home with me. Like there are like 2 cases that I can think of over like the past 5 years that were really like super heavy, that I needed to like check in with some of my colleagues about, just to, keep my feelings together. But it's heavier with my friends because I care about my clients, but I care about my friends and family members in a different way. So it's harder to compartmentalize with them, and it feels heavier when sometimes things that they share with me, I'm like, I feel like it was a session, but with a friend. And what do I do with it? Because they're coming to me as a friend, not a clinician. And so I have to try to answer as a friend, which even sometimes when I answer as a friend, people accuse me of being a clinician, but I'm really not. I promise you, I'm not. Okay. I'm not. I'm answering it as me, who just so happens to be a clinician.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you almost can't not answer as a clinician in a certain, because if you have this, this this knowledge and expertise. This is your friend. How can you not offer it?
I mean, and sometimes I will
Especially
ask.
if they're wanting it, if they're wanting advice or
Yeah, I will
feedback.
ask sometimes, like, are you asking me this as a friend? Or are you asking me this as a clinician? Because my response might be different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, and I try to deter my friends, like, you know, I'll joke and be like, girl, I'm gonna send you a bill after that, because that was a lot going on.
Right.
But like, you know, on a serious note, I'm like, now you know I can't do both. But sometimes they do want that. And then I'll be like, I'm gonna refer you to somebody. I'm gonna give you this, but then I'm gonna refer you to somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be a lot, because it is a different kind of relationship, and you know, and you're gonna see them in your personal life and in their personal life, where you're not going to have those experiences with your client, and you're going to see their significant others and their kids and their whatever, you know, whoever other people are involved in the dynamic. Yeah,
Right.
that could be like
And
super tricky.
contrary to popular belief, I am not always diagnosing people. I am not always analyzing people. That would be so exhausting.
Right.
Like there's like an ongoing like joke amongst clinicians, like when you meet someone that you're like, if you're dating and then they find out you're a clinician, and it's like, you know, and I'm like, no, we're not always. I mean, that would be just no.
Right.
I can at least say that for myself. I am not always diagnosing. I'm not always analyzing. I am analytical as a person, but no. I turn it off.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got the time, the energy, the mental capacity. Like, no.
Right. Abria says taking time to read is huge. Miss Lily says keep calm and meditate on.
Yes.
Abria says meditation is different for all. Her mind is so busy. She does a walking meditation that works better for her. I used to do that. I used to walk and pray and walk and just be with the quiet. Before I had a baby, and I would just randomly go walking spontaneously.
Yeah. I mean, and then honestly, sometimes mindfulness, it doesn't have to be like a half an hour. Sometimes for me, it's 5 minutes. I might listen to something for 5 minutes when I'm in the shower just to ground me.
Yeah. So your Sora Shamora, she was on the show last season, and I'm part of her mom's group. So she's also in the circle of moms that I could take advice from.
Shout out to Mama Smart.
Yes, she did I can't remember which. I think it was a self-care challenge, but I could be wrong. I don't remember the exact name of it. But she had some guided meditations, and I liked that they were short, 5 and 10 minutes. It is hard sometimes to find that big chunk of time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to do her thing every day, but several days I was able to get it in because of the short amount of time, and just having that 5 or 10 minutes to myself was helpful, and it showed me like, okay, I can carve out this little 10 minutes here or there. So that you're right, it doesn't have to be a big chunk of time. Abria says, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Abria. She says it can be like a target on your forehead. I don't want to know all your issues.
Yes. Oh, so I know. So yes, that's Abria. Yeah, she's a fellow clinician. She gets it. Yes.
And Shamor, she said, yeah, it was called the 21-day self-love challenge. I knew it was self-love challenge. Yes, that was very helpful. I did not get all 21 days in, but I got in several, and that was good.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna take a break here. We're gonna do a little game, right? This is gonna be a fun game, everybody. So give me a moment. I'm gonna share my screen with you all. Hold on. So the name of the game is what movie was this fake therapist on?
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
how much movies and TV that you watch. But I had fun putting this together. So we're going to see how
Okay.
we do. And we're going to, those who watch it in our virtual studio audience, you guys can play along with us and make your guesses.
Okay.
Oh, so before we dive in, I'll let you know the comments. So Miss Lily said, once people know you're a clinician, they will come to you with all their personal problems.
Yes, and there must be something about me. I could be in like Dunkin' Donuts and they'll just start talking, and I'm like, oh, yeah,
Oh, because it's your calling. It's your gift,
yeah. I
probably,
mean,
when
I'm
people can
definitely a
see it.
natural empath. It is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
All right. Stacy said, you know I'm ready. So she is ready for the game. And
Okay.
Arbria said she tries not to tell people that she's a clinician.
Yes.
All right. So let's get started with our game. What
Okay.
show or movie was this fake therapist on? Start out with an easy one, I think.
Oh. Oh my gosh. I see it. I see him and I see his father
All right.
and I see his brother and I can't think of his name.
Here's a hint. One of these three.
Frazier.
Yes.
Like I could not think of it. I'm like, you hear me? I'm talking about all the other characters.
Yes. So Miss Stacy, Miss Lily, Janice, Shamor, and Arbria all got it right. They all said Frasier.
Yes.
All right.
That's a
What?
throwback.
Yes. What show or movie was this fake therapist on? This is a harder one, I think.
I don't know that lady. Harpo, who this woman? No.
Let's see. Let's see if anybody in our studio audience has any guesses before I give you the hint.
I have
This
no
is a harder
clue.
one, but it's a show that I did actually watch. So Stacy put up the eyes emoji, like, who that?
Right.
Maybe I'm the only person who watched this show. I didn't watch
Um,
all seasons, so it is a show. All right. So yeah, the guesses are, or the hints are, Snowfall, My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, or Moesha. Miss
well, I
Lily
know
said,
it's
give me
not
a hint.
Moesha. I know it's not Moesha. We can rule that one out.
Okay.
I want to
Let's
say,
see. Stacy says Snowfall.
I was going to say Snowfall. I agree. I agree with
Snowfall.
that. I have
Okay.
no clue though. I don't know who this woman is. Sorry,
Okay.
lady.
And it was My Crazy
Oh,
Ex-Girlfriend.
yeah.
But so I did throw a little trick in the hint because this lady is on Snowfall,
Oh.
but she's a mom on Snowfall. She's a mom.
Oh,
She's not the
okay.
therapist. So, yeah, the show was My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is a kind of a silly comedy type show about a lady who kind of is stalking her ex.
Oh,
And this was her therapist
yeah. I don't
on the
know.
show. So nobody, I must have been the only person who watched that show. To me, this was my favorite one of all these fake therapists.
I don't know. See, I don't watch a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know her. She looks like somebody who would be on like Law and Order or Criminal Minds, or like one of those types of TV shows.
All right, I see some guesses coming in.
But I have
Stacy
no
said
clue.
Sopranos.
I'm like bombing this
Well, guess because you're busy
game.
being a real therapist.
Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie. I do sometimes have difficulty with watching like certain shows where they're
Mhm.
like therapists, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is this what they think of us? Is this your therapist? Like, is that what you think?
Bria says Sopranos.
Yeah,
So the hints are Dexter, Sex and the City, and
I
Sopranos. So
guess
Sopranos
Sopranos.
that's Dr. Melfi. This is
I
one
don't
of my
watch
favorite
any
shows.
of those three shows.
Oh. So it's funny that you were saying that because the list that I used to put this together was an article that was like, which of these therapists, fake therapists, are the worst?
I don't know. When you're done, because I want to make sure I don't give any away, I'm going to tell you who my TV therapist inspiration was growing up.
Oh,
Just,
okay.
but
Well,
they might
they
be on
might
this.
be on the list. They might
Right,
be
so
on
I'm
the
going
list.
to wait.
Let's see. All right. Who was this fake therapist?
Oh, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna
Trauma.
get this one.
That
Yeah.
movie, let me tell you about this movie real quick. This movie came out the same year I finished my master's program. My dad and I went to the movies to see this. When the movie ended, the credits were rolling, and he and I just looked at each other. And then this tells you how long ago it was. He said, "Is your phone number listed?" I said, "I'm calling Belltel on Monday to tell them I want a private number because everybody else remembers this movie for the little boy and I see dead people."
Right.
No,
Exactly.
you want to know what I remember out of this movie? The client found the therapist, went to his house, and killed him. That is my takeaway.
And I totally forgot about that part of the movie.
Everybody forgets about that part, but not the therapist.
Yes.
He said, "You didn't help me. You didn't help me." And then he killed him.
No. Yeah, I totally, like, as you're saying it, I'm like, okay, I kind of remember that part. But yeah, that definitely hits different if you're a therapist.
Exactly.
For our comments, Stacy was saying the therapist for The Sopranos was the worst. Bria said she had boundary issues. Many people knew The Sixth Sense. Bria said she loved that movie. Stacy said definitely a surprise ending. Janice was saying how it was filmed in Philly. Stacy said take your info off the website. Any personal info.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Lily says she loved the movie because of the surprise ending. All right.
Trauma, surprise, whatever you want. Yes, this lady, unethical. Unethical, get out.
Let's see, anybody else guessing? I have a funny story about this one too.
She did not get consent. Unethical.
So you're right, it's Get Out. So right after I saw Get Out, clearly I be taking things that happen in the movies and holding it in my head and projecting it on real life. So right after I saw Get Out, so the same lady I was talking about, Allison, who does the meditation, I had the Chase the Joy spa day right after seeing Get Out, like a few days later, or maybe a week or so. And this was our second meditation experience with her. So she wanted to like kind of, do like a step two, not just repeat what we did before. So she pulls out this, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a cylinder thing that when you rub on it makes this nice noise, right? Beautiful noise. So we're in the middle of her meditation thing, eyes closed, doing a thing. And then she starts making the noise. And in my head, now, obviously this is fiction, and just for the authenticity of the story, most of the people at the spa day are women of color. And Allison is not, she's a white lady. So all of a sudden she's doing the spinning thing.
She took
and
you
in
to
my
the sunken
head,
place.
I want to burst out laughing because I'm like, oh crap, she's taking us to the sunken place. And I'm like, okay, keep it together. You're running this event. Like, you can't be laughing in the middle of the meditation. So I had to hold it together. Bria says she didn't drink tea for weeks.
It's tough because I'm a tea drinker because, in sessions you're talking. So I drink a lot of tea. And it was difficult as a therapist to drink tea after this movie.
Definitely not in session with a new patient.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, she's probably the worst on this list, I would think.
She's unethical. Like when we were, my husband and I went to see the movie, And when this whole situation happened, I was like, that is so unethical. He's like, babe, just enjoy the movie. And this is why I can't watch stuff with therapists in it.
Right. All right.
Mike Seaver.
Yes.
No, well, Jason Seaver. The son was Mike.
That's right. Yep.
Jason Seaver. So now I can tell you, he was my therapist inspiration.
Oh.
That's like a fun thing. Like growing up, I was like, I'm going to be a therapist like Dr. Seaver. To me, Dr. Seaver had the perfect work-life balance. Because he had his private practice out of his home. He could go upstairs in the middle of the day and spend time with his children and then go back. I wanted to be Dr. Seaver. I would not have a practice out of my home nowadays.
Right.
But think about it. Like work-life balance, it was perfect.
Yeah. I bet that scene scene in The Sixth Sense probably killed a lot of people's idea about having a practice in their home.
That too, right?
Like, okay, that's not going to be the way to go.
Yes, but that is my fun fact. Growing Pains. Growing up watching Growing Pains, I want to be Dr. Seaver.
All right, this one I think is a challenging one.
I don't know her. I feel bad. I don't know, like the Black woman. I don't know her.
And this lady, I think, has been in other stuff. So I think she might like have one of them faces.
Yeah.
But let's see. We'll give a few hints. Stacy has the like the who this eyes going with the emoji. All right. Was she a therapist on Insecure, Girlfriends, or Living Single?
And I guessed that because I've never watched Insecure. So I watched Girlfriends and Living Single.
Okay. It's a good show. It's such a good show.
You can see in my life at some point how I stopped watching TV. See how like I know old stuff?
Yes. Miss Lily said she watched that sitcom when she was a teenager. I think she's talking about Growing Pains. I watched Growing Pains too. But it's funny, like I always resonated, I guess, more with the Tracy Gold character because she had, well, before they brought in the little girl.
Okay.
You had the two brothers. And so me growing up with three brothers.
Oh, okay.
I identified with her. So I remembered that the dad was a therapist, but I couldn't remember anything else about that.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I mean, I've wanted to be a therapist since I was like 8. So yeah, I know. Like,
so we have a few guesses so far.
When you grow up a therapist.
I don't even know that I knew that a therapist was a thing when I was 8. I don't know at what age I knew that.
I don't even know.
So we have several guesses all for Insecure, and Insecure is the answer. She's Molly's therapist. I don't know the season. All right, that's it for our game.
That was a good one. I bombed, but it was a good game.
Well, the game's not just for you, for our audience. We're guessing.
No audience. I'm sorry, I'm competitive. I'm like, I didn't do well. But yay for the audience.
Yay for the audience. And apparently I'm the only one who's watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It's on Netflix. If anybody wants to find something that's completely silly and not at all relatable to real life. Sometimes you need that.
Maybe I'll binge watch it this summer.
Yeah. All right. So this has been great. We're going to kind of wind down.
Okay.
And do our more routine questions. So these are questions I've been asking every guest. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but how have you been staying sane during the pandemic?
Like I said, just trying to do like the mindfulness type of meditation, reading, a lot of self-compassion, a lot of self-compassion. I think like my line that I've like adopted through this whole thing is like, we're in a pandemic and it's okay. Like, this is not, you know, how people are like the new normal. Well, this is not normal. So let's just get that straight. This is our new reality. That is true.
Oh,
But
I like that.
This is not normal.
I like
And
that.
so, I don't want, like, we're not normalizing crisis schooling, because it's not homeschooling, it's crisis schooling, it's pandemic schooling. So this is not normal. So just a lot of self-compassion, and anybody who knows me knows that I can tend to be like type A about things, letting go of some of those type A, not all of them, because they keep me grounded. But letting go of some of those things, and just like whatever it is will be. You can't control everything. That this pandemic has shown us, us little humans, we had this perceived sense of control, but we really don't.
Right.
So yeah, I think those things, and just like enjoying the silver lining of it, like enjoying being home with my sons. At first it was tough in transitioning, and them showing a lot of connection seeking behaviors. They were just happy to be here with me, and I'm like, look, I'm not here like the Wiz, you do not see me, I'm working, you're doing your schooling, you don't know.
Right.
But yeah, those things have definitely helped to keep me sane, and just definitely prayer, and just my spiritual beliefs. I'm Christian, staying grounded in the word, doing a lot of devotionals too have really helped. Yeah,
I really like what you said about self-compassion, because that's one of the things I've been trying to do as well during the pandemic. Similarly, kind of type A personality, I have a lot of expectations for myself, and realizing that I cannot accomplish all the things like I was before in this setting, and kind of having to remind myself and give myself permission over and over and over again that like this is okay is good enough sometimes, and then I also, those who've been in the group for a while, they know like I had to reach out to a therapist months ago. I was like, I realize I'm not okay, I'm not doing okay. So I had to reach out to a therapist. So that's been helpful, like knowing when to like get some help. Because these are, crazy times. And I really like it's been a subtle theme through our talk tonight. Like language is so important.
Yes.
It's funny because I just said to my niece yesterday, my niece lives with me. And she was saying, like, because like I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, and she's like, what? And I'm like, you are an entrepreneur. Words matter. Because she's already doing, things for her business idea. I'm like, you are an entrepreneur. Words matter.
Yes.
And that's been an underlying theme through our talk today. Like you're saying, it's not homeschooling, it's crisis schooling. I like that. And this is not our new normal. It's our new reality. But none of this is normal.
Not at all.
So it is important, the words that we're choosing to use. And even like you said in the very beginning about not complaining. And it's important to have a place to vent, a safe space, and know how and when to do that. But there is something to be said, because every time you're complaining, you're also hearing what you're saying, and words matter, and you're like reinforcing some of that negative feeling.
Absolutely.
So I kind of like this underlying kind of note from our conversation.
Yes. Come through, theme. Okay.
Yes. So my last two questions are more kind of fun, and they're kind of like a throwback to the Chasing Joy brand as a whole. The Chase Joy brand is 10 years old now.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thank you. And one thing that I used to do, which this Chase and Joy show is kind of reinvention of, is I used to have the Chase and Joy quarterly newsletter, where I do basically what we're doing, but in written form every quarter with someone. And I would always ask the same two kind of theme questions.
Okay.
And so those are, what's the last movie that you saw? And what's the last trip that you went on? And we are in this new reality of this pandemic. So you can view the word trip as broadly as you like.
Okay. All right. Wait, really quickly before I forget, I do want to add one more thing to that last part as far as staying sane during the pandemic. And that is overall, just do what works best for your household and avoid the comparison trap. Like comparison is a thief of joy.
Absolutely.
And when you compare and you see, like, social media is where you live your best life, but what about those things that people aren't posting? So that's another thing that has helped, because I feel like at the beginning people had like posts with like schedules and all of this, and I heard you say on one of your podcasts, baking banana bread. I bake banana bread too. I put chocolate chips in it.
Everybody did it. I did that too.
Yes. But avoid that comparison trap, because everybody's household is different. And even with moms too, like moms, avoid that comparison trap. Everybody does things differently. Some people make their own, baby food. Some people are just grateful that the apple wasn't rotten and they cut that soft part off. You gotta do what works best for you. Okay. Last movie I saw, the DC movie, Justice League, that 4-hour movie.
How?
You see how I said it right? That 4-hour
You don't look thrilled about it.
I couldn't even think of the name of the movie. I wanted to just say like the 4-hour movie. So I am more so a Marvel person. Not really a huge like DC person.
I just finished watching all of the Marvel movies in order. That's what I have done during the pandemic. So I don't even know the DC universe movies.
When the first DC Justice League movie, so Justice League is like the equivalent of the Avengers, but for DC. Mm-hmm. And when the movie came out, I told my husband, I said, y'all don't have to worry about me. You can take the boys to the movies to see it, because I didn't want to see it.
Right.
So apparently it was horrible. And so this other person redid it. So it's like the director's edition or whatever the case may be. I'm sorry for all of you DC people. DC is not my thing. So however the case may be, they redid the movie because, to improve upon the first one. And it was like 4 hours and 8 minutes long. Surprisingly enough, I watched it. Like we all watched it. I didn't even like say pause to go to the bathroom, get a snack or anything. I kept shifting. I sat up, I laid down, I slouched, but I watched it straight. And it was like, I think 7 or 8 parts. Like they broke it down into parts, which made it feel longer. Because like part 1, and then
like torture.
Part 2, and it was like part 7, and then it said epilogue. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, we watched it. I remember on a Sunday night from like 6 to 10.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that's actually technically not the last movie I saw. The last movie I actually saw was Rocky IV. That's one of my favorite movies. I watch it over and over again. Yeah. It doesn't count, but the last was Justice League.
That's with the Russian.
Yes, it is. I know the irony of it all.
Hey, where we are, full circle, back to Russian.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. All right. And my last trip. Mm-hmm. My last trip was in 2019. Well, COVID. Mm-hmm. Where our family trip, we went to Rehoboth Beach.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my last trip. Other than that, I've been local. Like I haven't left the state at all. I haven't even like gone to like Jersey or anything. I've been like local, maybe like a couple of times in like Montgomery County or something. But I've I'm like Babyface, by myself, social distancing.
Yes. For those who don't know, that was a Versus reference.
But yeah, I've been following the rules. I mean, I'm vaccinated now, but I've still been following the rules. Yes.
Yeah, that was a hard decision for me to make, but I feel good about it.
Same. I feel like I did it more so for my sons, to be honest, because they can't. And my husband, he works in public health, so he's been working outside of the home throughout the whole pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So he and I were having conversations, and then he decided to do it. And then when a decision was made because although I have private practice, I hear you always say, my day job. So I had to return to my day job.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, so I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's like
I know that was supposed to be on a good note. So we're on the beach. Yay, water.
Yeah. Well, it's challenging times, and like we all have to try, well, I won't say try. I feel like we're all making the best decisions that we know to make for our families and for ourselves. And that's really all we can do.
Definitely
right now. This has been amazing.
Oh,
thank you for being on the show.
Thank you
where can we keep up with you, or any new interesting things happening with you or your business?
So really, I mean, Infinite Life Growth was, the baby that was birthed last summer. I launched ILG on my birthday to basically do what I'm doing now. I feel like during the pandemic with the Zooms and podcasts, to me it's like the equivalent of doing the talk show circuit. So last year I had kind of set out to start speaking more because, and I shared this with someone else, that the different identities of Tamekia Young weren't necessarily playing nicely together. So as a Christian, as a Black woman, as a therapist, sometimes those identities don't always come together. Because sometimes, people of certain faiths feel like you'll just pray, and prayer and therapy go together, or sometimes in the Black community, we have a distrust of, it's like we have those words like, she ain't all there, those types of things, and we don't necessarily seek treatment. And so I feel like as a Black woman therapist, Christian, go out there, talk to the people, decrease stigma. And so I thank you for giving me this virtual platform to continue with that mission. And so that's just where I am with it. I feel like, I've been doing therapy for over 20 years. And I just want to just reach more people, I guess, informally through speaking. In different ways to provide that psychoeducation. And you gave the disclaimer, it's it's not therapy, but just psychoeducation, just some good tips and pointers from little old me. And my social media is Imani Counseling 215, Imani Counseling 215 on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. I am a strong supporter of therapy. I am pretty open about that. I have always been pretty open about that. Me going back to therapy during the pandemic is my third stint through therapy. I first went to therapy after my dad passed away, and I saw that was like going in person, sitting on a couch. But I refused to lay on the couch because I was like, no, that's too much. That's like
I don't even have a couch in my office.
It's
so stereotypical. I don't even have a couch in my office.
So I think it was like you could do whatever you want, but I was like, I am not laying on this couch. That's just too much. But I'll sit here.
Right.
And I saw her for about 5 years, and then it got to the point where I felt like I was thinking up stuff before I went in there, like what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm searching. And I was like, I think this has run its course. Like I don't think I need to do this every day. And then the next time I did therapy was when my mom, for those who've been following the brand for a while, my mom had cancer, and I was her caregiver for many years. So when she was, kind of getting toward the end of her battle, she was like, so you gonna go back to therapy? I was like, you want me to go to therapy? She was like, I think you should probably talk to somebody. So I think that was like her being a mom. So I was like, well, I said, I'll check out one of these online things. And I don't remember which one it was. It wasn't BetterHelp. That's the one I hear about a lot. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Talkspace. Um,
Okay.
so I did that and I liked that a lot. That was kind of like, I felt like it was having a journal that talked back because you kind of
Yeah.
texting your feelings. And then when I was going through some, particularly difficult times, we set up some video conversations to actually like
Mm-hmm.
talk, and that was good. And when that lady left that practice, I was like, I don't think I need to do this anymore. And that's actually who I reached out to when I was
Okay.
struggling with the pandemic. Because when she left, she started her own practice
Okay.
and she had told me the contact info like on her Instagram. So I got in her DMs and was like, hey, so I'm
Slid up in.
struggling. Can you take clients like at your, because we already had a history. So I didn't feel like I had to
Right.
like start over and explain my whole life. So I'm a strong supporter of therapy. I think everybody should go because everybody has
Yes.
something that they could work through that would make
Yeah.
them be happier. And I think it's helpful to have people that are not related to you or your friends to talk about these things because
Yes.
then you can feel free to really be open and not worry
Right.
like, oh, now they're going to be worried about me and
Right.
feel like you're burdening yourself.
Non-judgmental. Like sometimes clients, they'll tell me stuff or they might apologize. And I'm like, well, what are you apologizing for? Or they'll, like, I think sometimes if it's something like really difficult, that they're like just being mindful and like trying to protect me. Like, I know that was heavy. I'm sorry. And it's like, I'm not trying to make light of it. And I'm like, if these walls could talk,
Right.
you
And
know
that's
what I
what you're there
mean?
for.
Right. But I applaud you for that. And I
Thank
feel
you.
that, it's important for people to realize like the mission statement of Imani includes the words prevention, treatment, and support. And so I feel like, that support part toward the end where you might not actively be in treatment anymore once a week or bi-monthly or whatever your treatment schedule is, but it's just like a car that needs a tune-up. You
Right.
might check in quarterly
Right.
just to, make sure everything is okay.
Right. I like that a lot. And a lot of people don't know that you can do that.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't have to be ongoing. And then if you do, and this is like I tell my clients this all the time, like if we've reached a point where you might be checking in once a month, but then you have a specific stressor and you're like, can we see each other weekly for a little bit? That's fine. It doesn't mean that you're failing in life or like, oh, it's so horrible that I had to increase my treatment.
Right.
Like it means that maybe when we were seeing each other before, we didn't develop the skills to deal with that particular stressor. Or maybe I need to reteach you that, like, hey, remember we talked about that? It also applies to this situation, so you can apply it to this situation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really helpful for people to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over our last few comments before we
Okay.
close out. I think Miss Lily was talking about Rehoboth Beach. She said she went there a long time ago. Janice says that as she's getting older, she realizes the necessity of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Working out and stretching is essential.
Yes.
Making sure you're healthy by going to your routine appointments are all important parts of caring for oneself. I call it
Definitely.
the non-sexy side of self-care, like going to the
Mm.
dentist, which I hate,
Yes.
your other appointments, things that keep you going that are
Mm-hmm.
necessary, but they're not as fun as the mani and
Yeah.
pedi.
Yeah.
But they're
Yep.
they're just as important. And Arbria says she can't wait to go back to the beach. And Stacy says support is key. So I hope you all have felt supported virtually by the Chasing Joy show tonight and all of the wonderful gems that Tamekia has shared with us. This has been amazing. The next Chasing Joy show is going to be in 2 weeks, guys. So this is season 2, and I am smarter, right, than season 1. So I have built in more breaks for myself. Because as you guys know, the reason the show is at 10 p.m. is because everything in my life is based around Baby Joy Chaser's
Yes.
schedule. So we have to wait for him to go to bed. So I've given myself some breaks with the show so
Mm-hmm.
that every weekend I'm not stressing to get him to bed on time. So the next show will be in 2 weeks, May 1st. It's crazy that 2 weeks is May. This year is
Wow.
flying by. And we're going to be talking with Erica Cartledge. If you've been around Chasing Joy for a while, you'll remember her from Your Chic is Showing. She was actually, we did 2 Chasing Joy brunches together. She was the speaker at my second ever Chasing Joy Brunch and Learn. And we did it in Philly and in DC. It was so good. We did it twice. And she is a fashion expert and probably the only stylist that I would actually allow to dress me.
Nice.
So we're going to be talking about pairing up feeling good on the inside with feeling good on the outside, and also her balancing motherhood, entrepreneurship, and her own responsibility really to chase joy, which I feel like we all have to like own that your happiness is your responsibility. It's no one else's fault. Your family, your friends, your husband cannot make you happy.
No.
They can't do it. You got to do
should
it for yourself.
compliment you, not complete you.
Exactly. Icing on the cake, not the cake.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Tamekia. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I can't thank you enough. And like I said, I appreciate you being in the circle of moms that I feel like I can ask questions to and take advice from. And this has just been amazing. So everybody, if you do IG, obviously you guys are on Facebook because you're here in the group. So follow Imani Consulting 215 and keep up with what's going on with Tamekia. She'll obviously be doing more speaking, right? More speaking against events, virtual.
Yes.
And then hopefully, some in person as things improve in due time.
Yes.
So we will keep up with her. And thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye.